So I had to tell my wife something very hard. I told her her parents are no longer going to see our son. They will not see him at all, and if they ever get a chance to, it'll be with supervision. Let me tell you why. My wife and I have a 2-year-old son, and have been married for 4 years. Our anniversary was a month ago when we found out a nice, secluded cabin on Airbnb, and rented it out for a long weekend getaway. My wife asked her parents if they would be willing to watch her son, and they agreed as long as we dropped him off at their house. That worked for us since it was on our way anyways. I was raised Lutheran and my wife was raised Catholic, but neither of us currently go to church and have not had our son baptized. My mother-in-law knows this and hates it. She thinks our son needs to be baptized or he'll burn in hell. She's that kind of Catholic. So we go on our trip, and when we pick up our son and ask how the weekend went, mother-in-law says everything went fine and that she saved my son's soul from the devil. I asked her what she meant, and she says she had her son baptized the morning of her church. I tried my best to keep my cool so I did not scream at mother-in-law in front of my son. But I pretty much grabbed my son and left. On the car ride home, I was fuming and told my wife as calmly as I could that this would be the last time her parents have our son unsupervised. Well, she tried to downplay what her mom has done, but I told her we need to wait until we get home to talk about it because I'm not fighting in front of my children. When we got home and had a chance to talk about it, things got heated fast. I told my wife I no longer trust her parents with our son, and that if they did something like this behind our backs, I can't trust them to respect our wishes as parents in the future. I said this was a huge breach of trust and I'll forever look at her mom differently. She continued to try to defend her mom, saying that she was only doing what she thought was best for her grandson. She even downplayed it by saying that it's just a little water and a few words, and we don't go to church anyway, so what does it matter? I told her that under no circumstances will I allow her parents to watch our son by themselves ever again. I said that we can still let them see their grandson, but only if we're present. I also said that if she doesn't see what the big deal is with the situation, then maybe we aren't on the same page as parents and maybe we need to go see a counselor. She started crying and said that this isn't the kind of decision I get to make on my own, and I'm an a-hole for trying to tell her what kind of relationship her parents can have with our son. I told her that I no longer have any trust or respect for her parents, and that I don't know if there's anything that they can do to repair that. I told her I don't care if that makes me an a-hole, but what her parents did was unforgivable in my eyes. They put themselves in the position to lose privileges with our son. She's been trying to convince me to change my mind for the last month, but I'm not budging. To me, this is the hill I'm going to die on. Update number 1. First off, I want to thank everyone who sent me supportive messages and advice. I never expected my post to get so much attention. Since many of you requested an update, here you go. Turns out some of you were right. My wife was in on it. I confronted her a couple days after I posted and directly asked her if she knew that her parents planned this. She broke down, confessed everything to me. Mother-in-law had been pestering her about baptizing our son nonstop, and my wife finally caved. My wife has been working from home during COVID while my job requires me to go to the office. My wife and mother-in-law started doing Zoom meetings with mother-in-law's priest to start the baptism process. They lied to the priest and told them I was okay with baptizing our son, but I didn't want to be involved. The priest allowed it and they started doing online baptism classes while I was at work. My wife admitted that she planned it around our anniversary getaway and that mother-in-law had somehow convinced the priest that her father-in-law would be the ones in attendance. My wife told me that I wasn't supposed to find out, but mother-in-law could not keep her mouth shut even for one day. Their intention was to keep this from me permanently. So, I did contact the church to let them know the truth. I talked with the priest and he was surprisingly helpful. He said he would take the proper steps to make sure mother-in-law's no longer welcome in their church, and to reach out to the local parish to see what further steps need to be taken. I've yet to hear back from them on that. My wife and mother-in-law are mad that I got her kicked out of her church, but I don't think what they think or feel anymore. These people who I loved and trust have betrayed me, and I felt a range of emotions I didn't even know existed. My wife begged for forgiveness, but the fact that she did not come clean on her own makes me feel she would have kept this from me unless I confronted her. She's willing to do therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I don't know if I want to put in that work. I feel like there's no coming back from this. I contacted a divorce lawyer and started discussing what a divorce would look like, and if there's any way I can add provisions to a divorce agreement that would keep my in-laws from seeing my son, unsupervised. He's been very helpful, but I've not given him the go-ahead to actually file for the divorce. I feel I'm still too angry about the entire thing to think rationally, and want to give myself time to fully grasp what a divorce will mean for me and my family. My wife and I aren't talking much. I'm pretty much going to work, coming home to play with my son, then going to bed and repeat. I don't know what the future is going to bring, but I do know that without the support and help from people here, I don't think I would have the clarity I do now. Okay, so I want to read this comment and let me know what you guys think about this. But it wasn't on her own. Mommy helped also, so obviously they knew what was best. Comment 2 says, and then ignored the priest what he knew best too, because he required the father to be in on this and okay with it. But then again, he did duck all to actually make sure the father was okay with it, including not thinking twice about just the grandparents being there for the baptism. Marriage at least requires the priest to ask both parties if they agree to it. Imagine if you could just zoom past the proceedings without one or two engaged, and only have the grandparents show up for the actual wedding. Could you imagine? Guys, that's a good point. I can't believe the priest actually went through with that and gave the baby the baptism even though the father wasn't there. Or the mother. I don't know, it just seems like a red flag. Let me know what you think about that. Is that normal? I don't know. Drop your comments down below. The next story we're going to look at is the final story on the video, and this one gets pretty wild. Well, guys, I found out I had a child when CPS contacted me because her mother was losing custody and headed to prison. To make a long story short, I was a junkie, and as a result did a lot of dumb stuff. Questionable things. I've been clean for 11 years now, though. About a week and a half ago, I was contacted by CPS, who asked if I knew Mary Smith, a woman with whom I've had a relationship when I was on drugs. I said yes, and was informed that she has a child, Emma, who had been taken from the home, and I was named as her father. With no other contactable family, she could come to me or otherwise go to foster care. It was relayed to me that I was listed as the child's father on her legal documents as well. To cut out some bullcrap from the middle here, I'll just skip to the fact that I did accept emergency custody of the child, and I do actually pretty strongly believe that I'm probably her biological father, for a number of reasons. But I feel like at this point, the caseworkers have been unhelpful, and are basically like, for all intents and purposes, you're her legal father, goodbye. And not answering my questions. Emma apparently knew I existed and was told her whole life that I was her father, but her mother said she had no way of contacting me, which I guess is technically true. So here's my questions. How was I listed on the birth certificate, legal records, school records, etc., and never informed ever at any point? How's that even possible? Number 2, the caseworker said that because I'm on the birth certificate, and the undertone here was unless you have an identical twin somewhere that's 100% your child, there's no need to take a DNA test. Is there any benefit to doing so? Number 3. This is one I may have to consult with a lawyer on, but if I'm her father, am I then entitled to child support? Or the foster care stipend? That sounds terrible, but I don't make a lot of money and I'm stressed because there's time that I feel like I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough for myself even working full time. And I need to be able to provide for a kid now too. It's not about the money, but it's a little about the money. Update number 1, posted exactly 14 days after the original post. My ex, she was bonded out and is waiting for her trial. And ever since she got out, she's been contacting me almost every day. I have no interest in talking to her about anything but our shared child, and she's not calling me or texting me to talk about her or even to her. She says she wants to be friends and did not have a way to contact me before, which is technically true, although realistically, for the sake of our kid, she definitely could have put a little extra effort into finding me. I can't help but feeling that now she has my contact information, she's going to continue to use it to her advantages, even though I'm not in any way planning to get dragged back down into that rabbit hole. I've tried to tell her that if she wants to talk to our daughter, she can. And I've tried ignoring her, and I've tried telling her I just don't want to go down this path with her. But I feel like there's got to be some kind of firm, tactful way I can tell her that I don't want to have any kind of relationship with her, that I'm just not thinking of that. Does anyone have advice? I just feel like if I get tied up in this crap in any way that isn't just raising the kid, it's going to go down badly. But I can't seem to get that across her mind, and I don't want to be hurtful. Update number 2, nearly 3 months later, it's about the kid I did not know existed for 10 years. Well, it's almost been 3 months now since my last post, and I thought I'd give you a quick update. Overall, the kid and I are doing great. I really expected the adjustment period to suck, but I feel like maybe this poor kid really needed some structure and stability, and totally glommed onto that. I try to just give her as much of my love, patience, structure, and stability that I have to give. I've been learning a lot about attachment, trauma, and, well, everything. It's been overwhelming, but every night, no matter how exhausted I am, I get into bed and I thank God for her. I wouldn't trade her for anything in this world. I tell her every night she's my favorite thing ever. Legally, things are kind of boring. I did the DNA test, unsurprisingly got the results that she's mine. The emergency order still in place, Mom is still in jail. She was offered the option of going to rehab, but refused. She'll be in jail for at least a few more months, and after she's out, we'll be making a parenting plan for visiting with help from social workers. Realistically, I think she'll die before she gets clean. That sounds like a horrible thing to say, but hey, it is what it is. It's been a wild ride, it's not easy, but it's joyful, and it's really changed my life and made me want to be better in a lot of ways. Update number 3. I'm 40 years old. I've only ever had one real relationship in my life. I was dealing with a lot of things. Religious confusion, addiction, mental health for nearly 11 years. I made a choice to work on myself, to find meaning in my life, building strong foundations of faith, making meaningful platonic connections, and generally working to better myself. At times, I had thought about finding someone to romantically share my life with, but I was put off on some level I did not quite understand. After a previously unknown 10-year-old daughter came into my life, I felt fulfilled by her, but I still did feel like there was a missing piece of the puzzle. Although I could not figure out what it was that made all the prospects seem like they were lacking something. I first met my now boyfriend at our daughter's school. He was the only other single dad coming on a regular basis. He was divorced a few years back, and his wife moved to state, so his kids stayed with him. We started talking, and realized our daughters were friends and decided we should be as well. Well, after several months of deep conversations, laughter, and the warmest, most genuine connection I've ever felt for a person, all those years of suppression began to make sense, and even when I wasn't sure if anything would happen, I let myself fall in love. One anxiety-fueled conversation a week ago, I learned that my feelings were not unmatched. We saw no reason to hesitate in making it official. Our daughters are already convinced that they're living out their preteen movie stepsister life of their dreams, and it makes me as happy as the fact that I feel finally able to live my authentic life. If I've learned anything this year, I would say that it's not the second I shut my anxious brain off and let things happen, all good things just start to go. Next update, the burnout is real. Although my kid's going on 11, I only really became a dad less than 6 months ago, so I guess it's normal to feel this way. It's just that it carries a hefty amount of guilt when your child is as old as mine is rather an infant. I'm at most part completely solo parenting. I have a boyfriend, but he has 3 girls of his own and we don't live together. Although honestly, things are so much easier when we were together because the kids were basically self-entertaining at that point. This winter has been a hellscape because she's been sick frequently and today she stayed home from school for what feels like the zillionth day. Because, well, she had a random fever and after 7 hours of TikTok dances and art projects abandoned halfway through and toys all over the floor, I just feel like I can't do it anymore. I miss being able to do whatever, going wherever, and having money to go and do whatever I want. I'd spent the past 10 years of my life pretty solitary and focusing on being the best person I can be. And for the most part, I think of that as dad training, but sometimes I'm so exhausted, I can't help but feel depressed that I won't have that experience again. I love my kid and would never trade her for anything, but that burnout is really, really real. Next update titled, I hope I'd never have to post this. I got a call this morning telling me that my daughter's mother had passed away. No other details at this time. I'm going to guess it's an overdose. I've recognized it as an inevitability, but I also hope for a miracle for our girl's sake, if not her own. You always cheer for people you loved at one point, and especially so in this case. It's a mixed relief and deep sadness. Legally, there's going to be some things down the line here that will fall for me to deal with on behalf of our child, and I'm sure it'll come with questions I'll rely on you for. Our girl doesn't know yet. I let her sleep till morning, and she's still sleeping. I don't know how I'm going to tell her, and that's the part that gets me. She's going through some stuff of her own right now, and this was the last thing I wanted for her. Final update, I can't believe I've been dadding for a year. Well guys, this is a later on update. Let me just tell you, things are wildly different than they were a year ago, and 2020 alone feels like a decade. But my 11-year-old and I just celebrated 1 year together. I didn't know she existed until this time last year, and she truly is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I don't feel comfortable, and neither does she, sharing her face online, but I wanted to tell everyone what great kid she is, and celebrate our milestone year together. Tomorrow, we're having a special dinner, along with my fiancé, who I would not have met if it wasn't for her, and his 3 girls, and a cake, and presents to celebrate. In many ways, this has been a hard year, not just with COVID, but it's also been a really happy year. At 40, when I met her, I'd spent 10 years building a life focused on self-improvement, on quote, betterment, but there was always something missing. I was 10 years clean from heroin, but in some ways I think I was still punishing myself. I would not have told anyone who asked that I was unhappy because I didn't think that I was. But as Christine so eloquently put it, my life was rearranged with the presence of her, and her existence changed everything. Without her, I never would have met my amazing fiancé. Our girls literally are match made. But moreover, I would never have realized that was missing was this incredible, hilarious, spicy, cat-loving child. We've definitely had our share of wild highs and lows, but honestly, every single day has been so much better for her. She changed my life, and I'm so glad she's in it. So this was a rather sad story. We had a death involved, addiction issues, and a child. Well, let's just read some comments. All the feelings, all of them. I hope this very unconventional but awesome family is doing well. It's so awesome, but also in a way incredibly sad that she just immediately was all about moving in with total strangers. She couldn't have had a very good life before that. She did need the stability, but probably also the attention. It seems like she probably got a lot of, not now, or mom just nodding off on the couch. Definitely, says comment 3, a lot of that. But consider also the fact that this girl has known about this man as her father all her life. Children tend to idolize absent parents, so a combo of actually meeting her dad and her dad not falling asleep, Probably helped a lot. Guys, let me know what you thought of that comment. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Drop your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel, click that notification bells, and I'll see you in the next one.